Well, we just want to say hi, everybody. So glad you could join us. We're excited about this series because we love doing quality improvement as the quality improvement organization for 12 states, all the way from Maine down to DC. We get the great good fortune of being able to work with nursing homes all throughout this whole region that you see here on the slide. We're iPro. We work under the iPro banner, and it's actually three companies, iPro, Health Centric Advisors, and Clarent, who actually do this work together. Health Centric Advisors, where Josh and I are from, we actually cover all of New England, and Clarent covers all of Maryland, Delaware, and Maryland, Delaware, and DC, while iPro covers the other states. So this is a delight for us. Josh, if you don't mind, next slide. One of the things that we really wanted to cover today and talk a lot about with you, and hopefully you can chime in. We've got a bunch of questions for you, but we are in the process of thinking so many of our calls and so many of our encounters with homes obviously have a lot to do with staffing and staffing ratios and all of the drama that's going on. It's making it particularly difficult too, as we're trying to get people boosted and vaccinated, and we're trying to ensure that we have safe working environments as well. And so we have all of these things colliding. We also know, like over in Massachusetts, up until just a week ago or so, like 80% of the homes had COVID. So people are still really reeling from COVID, as well as this staffing crisis and trying to get folks boosted. So in this session, we're going to actually walk you through and review that staffing rating component as we think about quality improvement. We're going to talk about some really useful, hopefully useful to you, hopefully something you haven't heard, excuse me, staff retention and stability, some ideas, and we'll check in with some of you to see some of the things that you're doing in your own setting. And then we wanted to talk a little bit about that COVID-19 boosters as it relates to staff. So those are our big three. And next slide, please.
So Margie, yeah, wanted to chime in while we're still talking about COVID, because there was actually an article that came out yesterday from McKnight's talking about how we're at sort of a pre-vaccination level of COVID. Nationwide, the rates of COVID were up 24% in June. And the total number of staff deaths for the week of June 12th through the 17th had hit the highest mark since December 16th through the 30th of the previous year. So it's really essential, despite what the public may want us to believe, COVID is very real and still prevalent, and we're still in this pandemic. So really trying to emphasize continuing to get that second booster shot. I provided a link in the slides as well, but there's some nice information from the CDC providing some additional data that if specifically vaccinated people, and if they've only had one booster dose, they were 4 times more likely to die rather than those who received two booster doses. So nice, good information to continue to share. Like I said, we're still pretty much part of that pandemic, so we still want to continue to advocate and push boosters as much as possible. So we are going to get into the 5-star system. As part of our series, we are initially talking about the health inspections rating, the staffing rating, and the quality measure rating, because they're all three of them together make up your overall 5-star rating. Last week we talked about health inspections. Today we're talking about staffing, and next week we'll talk about the quality measure rating, and from there we'll actually get into some specifics about specific quality measures. So with the actual latest refresh to the 5-star rating in July of 2022, it actually showed now that the staffing rating is now based on 6 separate staffing measures, and there are individual points assigned based on how well each provider is performing in each. So the new staffing measures include the total nurse staffing hours per resident per day for weekends, the total nurse staff turnover within a given year, registered nurse turnover within a given year, and the number of administrators who have left the nursing home within a given year.
And
So
Josh, I know you're going to talk about it in a little bit, and but the thing that's really tripping folks up is that weekend
Yep.
nurse staffing, huh?
Yep. Yeah, I know. So that's pretty big. And from what I've seen from with the nursing homes too, is that I'm actually kind of grateful that they're tracking administrator turnover now, because from what I've seen, it all starts from the top, and when you have an administrator, going through 5 administrators a year, it's really difficult for the facility to, move in a direction of quality. So some of these things I'm grateful for, but at the same time, I really empathize with, how difficult it might be for the nursing homes to focus on some of these things like the weekend staff and everything. So those 4 measures that I had shared are in addition to the existing measures of registered nurse hours and total nurse hours per resident per day. So the source of your reported staffing, if you aren't already aware, is through payroll-based journaling, and this is data that's submitted from your facility, and it's due quarterly, and you have up to 45 days to submit it. And then only the data that's submitted and accepted by the deadline is used by CMS for calculating the 5-star system rating for the staffing. So your resident census is based on a daily resident census measure that's also calculated by CMS using your MDS assessment. So they're using the conjunction of the amount of residents that you have versus what you're reporting for staff to get your staffing hours. And some of the measures are actually case mixed as well. So if in regards to the RUG score, so depending on the intensity of skill needs that your residents have, it would warrant, of course, more staff and hours to help support those residents. So the RUG score, based on the STRIVE study, it is also taken into consideration while they're calculating the case mix hours for your staff. So with the latest refresh, there's actually a new job code that adds the nursing home administrator for tracking purposes as well, which is job code number 1. And again, like, if you aren't already familiar with payroll-based journaling staffing data, it does include both facility employees that are full-time and part-time, as well as other individuals that you might be utilizing in your facility, such as agency or contracted staff. But really important to note that payroll-based journaling staffing data does not include private duty nursing home staff reimbursed by resident and or their family. And also not included are hospice staff and feeding assistants. So with these new measures in regards to staff turnover, the turnover measures are derived based on the data, as I mentioned, from CMS and the payroll-based journaling. And using the data from the payroll-based journaling to calculate annual turnover measures for RNs, total nurses, and nursing home administrators, it's all constructed. The staff turnover measures are constructed using your daily staffing information submitted through the payroll-based journaling, and turnover is identified based on gaps in days worked, allowing the creation of a turnover measure that is defined the same way across all nursing homes and that does not depend on termination dates reported by nursing homes. So I'm going to get into that a little bit more information with some details here, but I wanted to see if there's anything in chat so far,
Yeah.
or any questions that we have.
Josh, we do. We had one, how can we correct the administrator number? So if somebody put in, they have two administrators, but it was one, or, typo kind of thing. Is there a way to fix that?
So you do have only a certain amount of time to go back and make corrections for your payroll-based journaling. And if that time has elapsed, I don't think you have any opportunity to go back and fix it. In regards to correcting their administrator number, Lisa, could you provide a little more clarity? Do you mean like, how do we improve that measure? Or do you actually mean like we put in like two different administrators, but we only meant to put in one? So if you could clarify that, I would appreciate it. And I see Mary had put in information. Is CMS planning a new survey as Strive is quite outdated? So Mary, I don't know the answer to that question. They're still using the information with the latest July refresh of 2022 and still including those RUG scores and information related to that, but I don't know for sure if they're planning on updating it. Margie, I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah, it's been in the wind, but I don't think that I haven't heard any concrete plans to update that.
All right, perfect.
Mhm.
So in regards to the staffing turnover measures, wanted to provide some information as well. So if you have an employee who is maybe in an auto accident that was not work related and might have a broken leg, and they were out for 11 weeks for recovery and rehab, and this person notified the facility that they would be on medical leave on November 5th, 2021, and didn't return until January 20th of 2022, for example. So this person actually would not be included in your payroll-based journaling as having worked in the facility for more than 60 days. So that person would actually be considered in your turnover measure as well. So you want to take into consideration when you have employees who are on leave, and if they're gone for 60 consecutive days, that they potentially could be included within that staffing turnover measure. And for the denominator, the information, I'm not going to read word for word, but I do want to note that individuals who return to the nursing home in that same example, after that gap of more than 60 days, like the example I was just talking about, can have multiple employment spells, so to speak. So used in the turnover calculation if they meet eligibility requirements for subsequent employment spells. So essentially, they would be treated as new employees as it relates to the turnover measure. So interesting information to note there. All this information is taken directly from the 5-star technical user guide. So definitely I refer you guys to go back and review that information if you haven't already. I'm just providing sort of synopsis and changes. So there is actually cut points for your staffing measures. So each of your staffing measures is going to have a total different amount of stats that you can be allocated based on how your facility is performing. So I have some of the information here written down as well, and some details related to the points assigned, but I'm actually going to show a graphic because I think it's a lot easier to understand. So if you're, say, for example, your RN turnover percentage is between 0 and 24.52%, you would get a total of 50 points towards your staffing rating for this specific measure. And of course, depending on where your facility sits on each of these measures and the percentage and how you're performing, that's how many points you're going to have allocated for each of these specific measures. So with the rating methodology, it's going to, I actually provided these staffing rating cut points. So if you're between, 255 points to 319, you're going to have a staffing rating of 4 stars. Wanted to make sure that I provided this information for you so that you could be able to clearly see, where your thresholds might be and how it's deriving the staffing rating for you.
Josh, can I interrupt?
Sure.
Back to your earlier example of the person with the broken leg. Patricia
Yep.
Devereaux has asked us if people are gone for over 60 days for, say, long COVID or chemo and need a temporary replacement. Does the person who replaces them and leaves, when they come back, count in the turnover?
That is actually a really, really good question, and I'm not sure for that, but I am going to take this question and I'm going to look for more information that I can follow up with you, Patricia, because I know a lot of facilities probably have similar situations that are curious to know. So I can definitely look into that for you and circle back. Thank you for chiming in. That's a great question. So lastly, wanted to just talk about your potential and the 5-star rating impacts. Again, these are the total amount of points that you can get for each of the measures. I really wanted to point out something, because although it's a lot easier said than done, your weekend staffing and your turnover percentage measures make up a huge percentage of total points that's available for your facility. So if there's any opportunity, and like I said, easier said than done, Margie's going to talk about it in a little bit, about some strategies, but those are really the low-hanging fruit that you guys can focus on, that you can actually work on to increase your staffing rating. And lastly, one change that was also added was, unlike the previous methodology where you were able to add a total star towards your overall rating if your staffing was at 4 or 5 stars, the methodology that is used now in the July refresh, you are only able to add a star to your overall rating if your staffing rating is 5 stars. So they're really pushing the staffing with this latest refresh, with the additional measures and the emphasis on the hours and everything. So with that, Margie, I'll pass it over to you so that we can talk about retention and recruitment strategies.
Okay, just a couple of quick things, Josh, and I know in our short time, but things you and I have talked about and shared with a lot of folks as well. And a lot of times thinking about the difference between retention and recruitment, and critical to the story. Recruitment's everything you're doing to, reel people in, while retention is everything you're doing to hang on to them once they're in. We call retention closing the back door. And a lot of times people, in their efforts to get people in the front door, forget to close that back door. So if you give me the next slide, Josh, that'd be great. A couple of things for you can go forward there, Josh.
Okay.
I don't know what happened there. A couple of things to think about. And like I said, we do a whole big series on staffing, but these are just a couple of things that we find time and again that have been a help to folks. The first one is a thing called flight risks. Next slide. And flight risks, as you would expect, those are the folks who kind of behind the scenes are thinking about leaving. And we know a lot of times who they are, or the co-workers know who they are. And so, they're the folks in the wings who, are checking out benefits at other places or have heard from a friend. And so one of the things that we really encourage folks to do is to actually have, instead of exit interviews, yeah, that's fine, but have stay interviews. And a stay interview is actually a little sit down with, your staff one-on-one, having conversations about what they love about their work, what keeps them there, and how you can better support them in growing within your organization. Good story. Somebody was having a conversation, had been thinking about leaving, came down to give their resignation, and the manager said to them, "Oh, this is really sad. I had such plans for you." And the person who was given their resignation said, "It would have been good if I had known you had plans for me." And so a lot of times it's kind of like you see potential in people, have a stay interview because you want to tell them about where you'd like to see them go, how you'd like to see them grow, find out what they're loving about their job. Next slide. Managing flight risks is really key. Do you know what? Also, right now, bonuses are outrageous. I know not even just in healthcare, but I saw an ad the other day for a childcare organization that was given a $2,000 sign-on bonus that they paid immediately. And it was like, wow, how about that? Lots of great money out there. And let me just say that it's not always what it seems. And so for those nursing homes who are tracking some of those bonuses and that bonus money, you'll find that it's not always what it seems. It doesn't necessarily provide retention. Does it get somebody in the door? Sometimes. But people come in, they sample your culture. If you don't have the kind of culture that is, heartwarming, that makes people want to stay, like the ultimate staff retention secret weapon is the culture of your organization, how reliable managers are, how frequently people are connected to each other, the types of friendships that happen within those organizations. All those kinds of things, that culture is what keeps people. So getting people in the door is nice, but we have a recommendation, and we have homes that have used this recommendation. If you have money to lay on the line to give bonuses, do something different. Instead, use that money to reward the people on the floor who help to engage that person, bring them into your culture, and make them feel welcome and wanted so that they'll stay. And instead of giving the money up front to somebody you don't know, reward the loyal employees who are part of your work and who stay and help to make for great, who become mentors, who take people to lunch. All of those kinds of things are really important. So redirect those dollars that are spent on recruitment to create retention programs. Josh, next slide.
Yeah, I just want to chime in because I actually just spoke with a nursing home last week, and they were spending $40,000 to $50,000 a month on agency staff. And it's just like money is just pouring out for these individuals who have no inclination or loyalty to your building. So I really think that like instances like that, there's an opportunity to take even like half of that money and reinvest it into your own staff, and a lot of opportunities that you can take into consideration with that.
Hey, Josh, Sean says, what's the best way to get corporate folks to understand that? And Sean, I would suggest in just a second, I'll show you a couple of things, how you measure the success of your retention programs. And that becomes really important, because if you were doing it on one floor where you were doing the bonus being given out to the staff who help support people versus the upfront, you might find that you have better success with the one. So you're actually going to do a little quality improvement study. I'm going to scoot by and go to the next one, if you would, Josh. Yep, we'll have the slides available as well. One of the things, and we've shown this a couple of times in our Booster Blitz series, but, are those gift cards working? So when we're thinking about bonuses and compensations and all those kinds of things, one of the things we really like to encourage folks to remember is that not everybody cares about your damn gift card. truth be told. And so like that gas card that you think is like making a big difference, it's like the pizza party, the employee appreciation pizza event. A lot of times there are 5 different ways that we look at the 5 different languages of compensation or rewards. And so there are tangible gifts, but there are other folks who would just rather spend time with you or have lunch or get an hour of your time so that you can talk together. Other people, words of affirmation, you know what, if it hadn't been for you, Ethel might have died. And so you coming down here and really impressing on us that she needed to be seen right away, and what you were seeing, that made such a difference, and you saved her life, and we just want you to know that. Physical touch, pat on the back, just being there for people, being in their space for those who are comfortable with it. That means more sometimes than a gift card. And acts of service, where we've seen our folks up in Maine who administrators who have gotten out and cleaned off windshields in big snowstorms so that when 11 o'clock came, folks were able to go out to their car and not have to spend another half hour cleaning off things. We did gift cards, Margaret's saying, and it worked out great, but after a few weeks, no one would work unless they got a gift card. Sometimes you have to really be careful that things don't come around to bite you. And it's true, Margaret, I can appreciate that. So think about those rewards in 5 different ways. So don't rely always on that gift card or tangible gift. Wouldn't you say, Josh?
Yeah, I think we talk about resident-centered care constantly, but I think in regards to staffing and recruitment and retention, we almost need to practice staff-centered care, where we need to know our staff on a personal level and know which one of these 5 different love languages speak to them the most.
Yep.
And then support that, because
Sure.
not everyone's going to want tangible gifts. Not everyone's going to want quality time. We need to know our staff members just as well as we know our residents.
Yeah, and this really speaks to culture too,
Mhm.
because that's making that kind of big difference.
Yep.
Josh, next slide, please. Take a quick look at this one. How are the training managers becoming savvy responders to the staffing crisis? And this is where I always ask, like, what are you doing to train your managers? Because it's a kind of known fact that people who love their boss love to come to work, love to work with them, love to share that vision. In our Joy in Work series that we just completed, people love to get behind a great mission. And so even if being able to ensure that your managers are helping to offset some of the crisis that's going on by good management skills, that becomes really essential to this process. And so helping people to actually develop their skills so that the managers are invested in keeping staff, that it's part of their job, it's in their job description, and that maybe you're offering some kind of education, leadership classes, all of those kinds of things can make a huge difference. Next slide, Josh. One more time. Here's back to earlier question. Recruitment channels are all of the different wide array of ways that you draw potential candidates into your organization. So, for those of you who are going out to nursing schools and speaking and going over to the high school who has that healthcare occupations kind of program, your Department of Labor, get to know those folks. All of those are what we call recruitment channels. And what we encourage you to do is to widen the potential, step out of the office and become known in your community so that you too can widen the array of places. One of the nursing homes that we worked with had the big bus, with their logo on it and everything. And the bus driver was actually trained so that when he was out and about and people he got talking with, he would actually have an application with him. Train every staff as an ambassador to become part of this whole recruitment channel. Let's take a look at the next one. one of the things that people frequently, one more time, Josh, people don't track those recruitment channels and also measure the process. This is like your little Dunkin' Donuts window from the time somebody came to the window and to the time that they actually got their coffee. This one is to think about how long from the time the person first steps foot in your place to how long it took to actually hire them. If it's taken 4 weeks, chances are they got the job someplace else. They took another job. So the quicker that you and your team can turn this around from the time somebody comes to get them into your floor on with a paycheck, that's key. So next one, Josh. I use this slide and everything. It comes from our leadership program, but those recruitment channels, actually begin to measure them. Use your QI skills to actually monitor. So are you getting more kids from the high school? Do those kids stay with you longer? Do they end up working weekends for you in various jobs? How are you developing them? Does it, does it turn out like the high school thing really doesn't work so well, but we're getting big bang for buck when we go over to the nursing school and getting those RNs in. So begin to measure those things. Take a look at your hiring channels and see how many lead to success. Next slide, Josh. And so this is one recruitment committee. Get a gang of your folks. We have a whole worksheet that tells you some of the things to get them talking about, but a recruitment and retention committee comes up with strategies by staff to hook people and recruit and retain people. Key to the story. One more time, Josh. I think that's it. Oh, and using some of the other options like non-direct care workers, help to take the burden off of nurses, have everybody working up to their license level, have nurses doing nursing, have CNAs do the things that are required for their nursing CNA license, and for those kinds of things like bed making and getting water out on the floor and all of those other kinds of jobs, use non-direct care workers. And we also have a really nice job description for that that we'll be glad to share with you as well. Josh, thanks so much, everybody. I think we kind of gotten to the end of our rainbow here, landed the plane pretty close. Josh, over to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to give an opportunity for anyone else to, if they have any questions, to either come off mute or chime in. And I'm providing our contact information as well. So if you have any questions, any burning questions that you have about any quality measures, anything related to quality improvement, send them to us. Even if you have success stories, things that's going great in your facility that you want to highlight and promote, we'll even highlight you guys for your peers, in front of your peers. So talk to us, reach out to us with any questions, anything that you need. Share what's going great in your facility. Share pictures. We're here to help support you guys. There was a comment. Could we please receive a copy of the presentation email to us? So Margie, I think we have to go through the 508 compliance clearing to make sure that it's available.
Josh, we'll take care of it. Yep, and yep. we'll get the job description out to folks as well.
Yep. Perfect. All right. And so yeah, with that, that'll be it for today's session. Thank you so much, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.